Using a 19mm socket, we're going to go ahead and remove our lug nuts. Go ahead and set those aside. Remove the wheel, set that aside. Now right up here on our lower control arm and our ball joint going into a knuckle, we want to go ahead and remove this cotter pin. Use our pliers here to get in there. Use an 18mm wrench, we're going to go ahead and loosen our lower ball joint nut here. I'm going to try and loosen that as far as we can. Right up to the axle. Use a 13mm wrench on the top here, and use a 13mm socket on the bottom. I'm going to remove this bolt. Remove the nut and the washer from the top. And remove our upper bushing here. Going to go ahead and tap our bolt down from the top through. Go ahead and pull out our bushings and our sleeve right here. The lower control arm, we have a bolt here that is holding the tail end here. This is a horizontal bolt. It's a 21mm socket for the nut and an 18mm on the bolt head. Let's go ahead and remove this nut. Go ahead and pull that bolt out. Now on the inside of the wheel well area, we have a splash shield right here. There are two plastic retainers. They have a Phillips head screw in the center. You want to unscrew that, and then you can use your trim tool and get in behind. You want to go ahead and pop that one out. Do the same for the one behind it over here. I'm going to go ahead and pull down our splash shield. What we want to get access to is this nut right here. This nut here goes to the bolt, our vertical bolt holding the front portion of our lower control arm. Let's go ahead, loosen and remove those. Using a 21mm wrench on the nut on the top side, we're going to use our T55 Torx bit on the bolt side here. Remove that nut and bolt. Now along our lower control arm, we have the wiring harness here for your ABS. We're just going to use our trim tool. I'm going to pop these little buttons off like so. Once that's free, we can go ahead and work our control arm Try and work this out. We're going to go ahead and get our pry bar up on the front portion of the control arm. And we're just going to get it in there between the subframe and the mount for the control arm and just kind of work it out. Once we have that out, I'm going to go ahead and give the back side of the control arm a few bonks. So we're going to go ahead and work on getting this bushing out of the control arm. This side here has a flanged side on it, so it's sitting flat on the control arm itself. This side here is the press-through side. So what we're going to do is we're going to use our air hammer here, and we're going to work our way around the perimeter and then push that out of the control arm. If you have a vise would be perfect to hold the control arm while you do this. Ear protection and eye protection is a must. We're just going to work our way around the perimeter here. What we're doing is basically trying to break the rust free and work this free from the inside. And this looks like it's pretty well collapsed on the inside. We're going to go ahead and flip this over. We're just going to get underneath the edge here and see if we can start popping this up. Now sometimes if you're going to be working around the shop or whatever, I will have a tendency to just take a crayon and I'll just put F for flange. That way there I know, hey, when I come on back and I'm putting in the new bushing, this is the flange side that's going to go here. You don't have to do that, just something I have a habit of doing. I'm just going to go ahead and use a little bit of sandpaper just to clean up some of the rust that's built up around here. I want to make sure that our new bushing goes in nice and smooth without any resistance from a rust buildup. Now ours isn't that bad. More of a precautionary process here. Now we have our bushing ready to go in. I'm going to go ahead and put some grease on this here. A little bit on the inside here, just to try and help this slide in a little bit easier. Now when we removed our old bushing, we had our little torque marks here, our little torque slots in here. And there was a little bit offset like so. So we're going to go ahead and reinstall our new bushing like that. We're going to take a ring here, a little press tool, piece of an old bearing or something like that. And we want to put it on the metal perimeter here. You don't want to put something on the inside. You don't want to damage that rubber in there. Going to line this up. I'm going to go ahead and try tapping this in to get it going into the control arm. And just work your way around. All right, we have our bushing lined up and tapped in. It's going in pretty good. We're going to go ahead and go over to our press and get that pushed in the rest of the way. Now we have our press lined up here. We're going to go ahead and push the bushing into the control arm. have it. Our bushing is pressed in flush with the control arm. Now on the front side of our control arm, we want to go ahead and get this bushing inside the chassis here. We have it lined up. We're going to go ahead and use our dead blow hammer, and we want to try and tap this in. What we want to do is line up at least our hole on the bottom, and you can see that this is still a little bit crooked. Once that bolt comes through, go ahead and get that nut started. I'm going to go ahead and snug down our bolt here. I'm going to go ahead and torque this down to 92 foot-pounds. So we're going to go ahead and use a ratchet strap. I'm going to hook it in the control arm here. And then we're going to hook it onto our subframe on the other side. Now we're going to use our ratchet strap to go ahead and pull our suspension inward, pull our control arm into the chassis here or into the subframe so we can go ahead and get our bolt in. Really get that to pop into place. Let's go ahead and get our bolt installed. And it might take a little bit of wiggling to get that to line up in there, but pop that through. Go ahead and get that nut on there. Then you can go ahead and release your strap. Let's go ahead and snug down our nut and bolt here. Now we don't want to make this too tight, we just want to make sure that it's snug and in place. Let's go ahead and torque this down to 92 foot-pounds. We'll go ahead and take your ball joint, going to line this up. Once we get that lined up inside, go ahead and get that nut started on the top here. So let's go ahead and tighten down our lower ball joint nut here. You want to go ahead and torque this to 15 foot-pounds plus 120 degrees if you have the ability to do so. In our case here, we're simply going to tighten this down pretty snug. Now once we get this tight, what you want to do is make sure that you line up the notch in your castle nut with the hole in your ball joint stud. That way there you can put your cotter pin in. Now once you have your nut torqued, you want to make sure that you can get your cotter pin through the castle nut, through the ball joint stud, and out the other side. If it doesn't go through, you want to go ahead and tighten up that nut a little bit more. You never want to loosen that nut. So tighten up a little bit more until that lines up. Once it does, go ahead and feed your cotter pin in, push it through. I'm going to go ahead and bend over our tab on the top using your pliers. Pinch it over pretty good. You can go ahead and snip off the excess pigtail. Let's go ahead and install our wheel. I'm going to start all of our lug nuts and get those threaded on by hand first. Once all these are on, I'm going to go ahead and get those snugged down. and torque down our wheels to 100 foot-pounds. Now that we have your wheels torqued, you want to go ahead and bring your vehicle down to your local alignment shop and get that taken care of so you don't have premature tire wear.